Hello everyone and welcome back to The Elegant Edit and to an exciting video. I'm coming to you with no makeup on, obviously, because today I wanted to film a get ready with me and get to know me video. Now, this is long overdue because I have been on YouTube for almost 2 years now. February 2025 will be 2 years. So some of you who have been watching me for a while may know some of these things, but I guess this video is for people who are just subscribing to me, or if you've been following along but you want to learn something new about me, I guess. So I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna do just kind of my everyday makeup routine. It's nothing fancy. I will tell you what products I'm using, but this isn't gonna be like an in-depth like makeup tutorial or anything. If you want that, let me know. I would be happy to do it, but today I'm just gonna be sharing some facts about me and my life, things that you may want to know. I have my cute little makeup bag, my brushes, and I've got a little mirror ready to go. So I'm super excited. So I guess we will just dive right in. All right, starting off with the Wet n Wild Mega Last Eyeshadow Primer. This is a new-ish product to me. I grew up in Connecticut. I moved to North Carolina when I was about 11 or 12 years old, but my family is all from New York. Both my mom and dad are technically from Queens, New York. My mom was born in New York, I believe, moved around a few times throughout her childhood and ended up back in New York, in Queens, and my dad lived in Queens his whole life up until I was born. So when I was born, or just before I was born, my family moved from New York to Connecticut, and I grew up there until I was about 11 or 12. So yeah, I feel like I feel like the house we lived in Connecticut was perfect to grow up in. We had 7 acres of land. It was beautiful. It wasn't the biggest house in the world. My siblings and I all had to share bedrooms, but when you're a kid, it's not a big deal. So it was honestly kind of perfect. And so yeah, I grew up in Connecticut, and I feel like it was honestly the perfect place to grow up, actually, and I think we kind of left at the right time as well. For my eyeshadow, I'm keeping it very simple today. I'm going to use this Kiko Cosmetics in the shade 200. I don't think it has a name, but it's this gorgeous like taupe kind of shimmery shade. It's beautiful. So I'm going to go in with my brushes. But yeah, so I grew up with 4 siblings, which I know sounds like a lot to some people. To me, that's just my life. So I have 2 older brothers, an older sister, and a younger sister. So I'm the 4th out of 5 kids. And yeah, it's always been quite a busy household, sometimes a bit loud and chaotic. But yeah, so I grew up in a house with my 4 siblings. My mom and dad and my grandma lived with me my whole life as well. My siblings and I were I want to say quite close, but at the same time, growing up, especially before my younger sister Lexi was born, I always kind of played by myself. I think I was just incredibly girly, and my older sister was not at all girly and is not girly. So I played with my dolls on my own, and I just did my makeup on my own. That kind of leads me into the next thing, and that's that I was always a super girly girl. I loved all the kind of stereotypical little girl things. I loved playing dress up. I loved doing my makeup. All of that. I loved all the girly things. I loved my dolls. Everything. I had an American Girl doll, which was just the thing to have as a little girl in the early 2000s. You know, it was just like, I just look back and I think growing up, I just always liked, like most little girls, I guess, the idea of being a grown-up, being a woman. And I just always loved the idea of it. And I have to say, now that I am an adult, I am a grown woman, it is pretty great. I do enjoy being a woman. And I'm just as girly now as I was then. Growing up, and even today, I always described myself as quite a sensitive, emotional person. And I don't know, maybe there was a time where I thought that was a bad thing, but I've reached a point in my life where I think it's a beautiful thing. I feel like I have a lot of empathy and sympathy for others. I feel like I'm I'm very emotionally in tune with myself and with other people. I can sense when the vibe is off. I can sense things about other people. I've always kind of had that, and I see that as a gift now. And being sensitive and emotional, a lot of people see that as a weakness. I see it as a strength. I think the world needs a bit more of that in a way. And so I feel like that's something beautiful that I can offer to this world, this chaotic and sort of scary world that we're living in today. I'm just going to quickly go in and highlight my inner corners and my brow bone with this Ofra Cosmetics X Madison Miller. This is from like Ipsy a few years back, but it's the highlighter in the shade Moon Dance. But anyway, yeah, so I see those things as a gift these days, and I think it made me stand out from other people in a good way. And I was also the kind of kid who I always did my own thing. Like I'm really proud of the fact that I was never the kind of kid who felt like I needed to fit in. I honestly didn't want to fit in. I was really happy to do my own thing. I think it helped in a way having a big family, because I always had built-in best friends. I was never one to have many friends. I was not a cool, popular kid, absolutely not. But I didn't want to be. I never cared to fit in. I was really happy to do my own thing, and that's remained true to this day, and I'm really proud of my younger self for that, because, I don't know, I think because of that, I just always did what I wanted to do, and because of that, I think I gained a lot of confidence. Though I was never the most confident person, I struggled a lot, and as a normal human does. I mean, I still do sometimes with insecurities and doubts and worries, but I feel like, I don't know, I'm able to kind of regulate my emotions better these days. I'm able to, I don't know, take care of myself, and it's not always easy. Not every day is easy. I'm a human being. But I'm just really proud of how far I've come. Now I'm going in with mascara. Now I can't talk and do this at the same time, so maybe I'll share a little fact about myself and then apply this off camera, because I literally cannot do it. But one thing I like to do when I do my mascara, I actually don't curl my lashes. I naturally have a curl to my lashes, and once my eyelash curler broke, I just kind of was like, do I need to buy a new one? Probably not. So I actually use like this little spoolie, or like this little, I don't know what you'd actually call it. It might not be a spoolie, but it's kind of like a little mascara wand with nothing on it. And I just like to brush through my lashes just to straighten them out. Sometimes I think I sleep a bit funny, maybe. I sleep on my side, and so maybe that's why they kind of end up going in different directions at times. But anyway, speaking of anxiety and worries and doubts, like I said, I always felt like a very anxious person, and that's true to this day. I hold a lot of tension in my body, and that's something that I'm actively working on to better myself with to this day. And I feel like something I've realized about myself is that, you know, I used to also be like an incredibly shy kid. I was so shy to the point where at my kindergarten graduation, they called my name and I did not stand up. I sat in my seat and pretended I didn't hear anything. So I was incredibly shy growing up. I don't think I really got out of that until I went to college, but I'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, basically something I've learned about myself recently though is that you can't necessarily put yourself into a box. You shouldn't, sometimes labeling yourself as something isn't always a good thing. Sometimes it helps you to find your identity, but in this situation for me, saying that I'm anxious, saying that I'm worried or nervous or shy and introverted and I don't like people, I always told myself those things. But now that I'm 25 years old and I've learned so much about myself, I've grown, I feel like I'm healing, I'm learning so much, I don't believe those things about myself. Like, I do struggle with anxiety at times, maybe insecurity at times, but when you label yourself as those things, you start to believe it. I'm the kind of person who believes that what we tell ourselves, we believe, and our minds are such a powerful thing. So be careful what you say. That's what I really believe. So I've stopped saying those things about myself, you know? Like I said, instead of saying I'm an anxious person, I instead like to say, sometimes I struggle with anxiety. I don't like to label myself as negative things, only positive things, because you will start to believe it. And what I've learned about myself is that I am an introvert, but I enjoy being around people. I love people. I love meeting new people, making new friends. And I do still get a bit anxious beforehand, but once I do it, I'm like, gosh, like that was so fun. And all it is that I just get my energy from being alone. I need to recharge afterwards. But I love people, and I think my husband has also been a huge part of that. He makes me feel more confident in myself and in social settings, and I think we do that for each other. And so that's a huge help, but I don't know. I've learned a lot about myself, and I don't label myself as anything negative anymore. Mascara is done, and I used the Maybelline Lash Sensational Full Fan Effect in Very Black. This is my all-time like favorite mascara, especially for the drugstore. Like, I don't think you can get any better than this. It makes my lashes super long and like voluminous, but not voluminous, is that the word? Voluminous? I don't know. But it gives them volume and lift and length. But it doesn't clump them or anything. Like, it's beautiful. I absolutely love it. So I always repurchase this one. And if you haven't tried it, I feel like I've tried all the Maybelline mascaras, but this one's definitely my favorite. So you need to try it if you haven't. Moving on to face primer, I'm using the e.l.f. Liquid Poreless Putty Primer. I love this, and I actually prefer it over the actual putty one that comes in the pot. This one's just so much easier to apply, and I feel that I don't tug at my skin as much when I'm putting it on. So we're gonna do that now. I just washed my hands. But next little fact is that I was never someone who, I don't know if I was never bad in school, like with like schoolwork. I never really got bad grades, but I never really cared to focus too much until I got to high school. When I got to high school, I feel like I had less distractions. So like I said, I moved from Connecticut to North Carolina when I was like 11 or 12. I think I was 12. And I started 7th grade here, which was a rough year to start at a new school. People weren't always very nice, and everyone already knew each other because in Connecticut, where I was going to school, I was about to go to middle school where it was just 7th and 8th grade, whereas in North Carolina, at least at the school I was going to, it was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So I was starting in the middle of everything, which was not fun, and yeah, I was just the new girl, so I didn't love that. But basically, yeah, in middle school, I was new. I was going through, you know, just, I don't know, a difficult time of adjusting. I missed my friends and my life in Connecticut, and it was hard to make new friends. And so, yeah, I just wasn't as focused on my schoolwork. I always did okay up until that point. I struggled a bit, but then once I got to high school, I felt like I had fewer distractions and I was more focused. And especially my sophomore year, I really started to take it seriously and I wanted to do well, and I did really well. I graduated high school with honors, which I was really proud of. And then I went to college, or as anyone else in the world who's not in the US might say, university. I went to a 4-year school in North Carolina, and I also graduated college with honors. I majored in multimedia storytelling, which I went in with journalism, and I didn't love it as much as I thought, so I swapped. They brought a new major to the university, and that was called multimedia storytelling, and it just seemed to be more of what I wanted. So what I also loved about the major was, again, it didn't put me in a box. I feel like I learned so many different things that would benefit me in different types of careers and different fields, in a way. I think, you know, I studied a bit of marketing, social media, photography, videography, writing. It was so many different things, a bit of journalism in there. So I really feel like I loved the major. I loved my classes for the most part. The professors were great. Honestly, for me, going to college was so worth it. I know it's not for everyone, and like, that's okay. Not everyone needs to go, but I honestly feel like it was the best thing I could have done. College was not easy or fun. I lived at home during my college years, which in a way I'm glad I did. I think part of me maybe missed out on some college experiences, but for me, it's just what worked better, and I got to stay with my family. I got a job that summer after I graduated, and it was, I think the role, I'm trying to think of the title because I don't work there anymore, but I think the role was marketing and communications specialist. I think that's what the role was. And I was there, I'm trying to think, maybe a year and a half. I think it was a year and a half that I worked with that company. And then I found a different job that I absolutely loved. I was a social media specialist, and it was the best. I loved that job and the people I worked with, and if I could, I would go back to them today. It probably wouldn't have been a forever type of job, but it was honestly, I couldn't have asked for just a better job. Like, it was honestly perfect and so fun. I actually got to do the social media marketing for some big brands. They're world famous brands, which was really exciting. So it was a great like second job to have. It felt like my first big girl job, so I absolutely loved it. By the way, this BB cream is quite light for my skin right now, but we're going with it. It's my favorite BB cream. Any like foundation, BB cream, you name it, like this one's my favorite. I talk about it all the time. It's the Purlisse BB cream. Now there are two different ones that I love. This is the Ageless Glow Serum BB cream, and the other one is the Perfect Glow BB cream, I think. So I could not recommend this more. It's quite expensive, but so worth it, especially if you live in the US, because shipping outside of the US would probably cost a fortune. So just keep that in mind. This is a super random fact, but I just thought I would share it. When I was about 2 or 3 years old, I think I was 2, I got bit by our family dog. I still have the scar to show it. It's on my face, but I don't think you can see it. It's sort of like on this side, but what I love is that it looks more like a dimple, so I don't mind it. But basically I grew up with 3 different family dogs. Lucky was the one who bit me, and he was like, I don't even know what kind of dog he actually was. He was kind of like a mix, I think. He was like, I don't know, maybe a lab mix, I don't know. But he was always a great dog, and I guess he had Lyme's disease. And as a little baby, 2, 3 years old, I didn't know that he was in pain. And so I guess, no one saw it happen, but I think what they think happened was that I pulled his ear or twisted his ear or did something like that, and so he bit me. He basically bit me like this. So his bottom jaw went right here and his top jaw went right beneath my eye. So I got very lucky because I don't have any scarring near my eye. I just have the one here. And so my mom says, which surprisingly, being me, and also that's traumatizing for a kid, I didn't cry. Somehow I didn't cry. But my mom freaked out, of course, and took me to the hospital right away. And I had to get, stitches. And it was, probably quite scary for my family. Somehow I didn't cry. I don't know how that happened, because I would cry today if that happened. So I don't know. I think probably it was just shock. But yeah, so that's my little story about that. We kept the dog, and he was always an amazing dog. I think he was a bit like anytime, I don't remember this because I guess I was a kid, but if any of the other dogs went near his food, he was quite protective, but he never tried to bite any of us that I know of ever again. So of course we kept him, and he was all good. There was no issue there. I think my mom did face a bit of backlash for keeping him, but again, he never hurt anyone again. And I was fine. I have a scar, memories of our childhood dog, I guess. But yeah, I always loved him till the day he died. And so, yeah, I have a little scar, but I like it because it looks more like a dimple, so I don't mind. By the way, for my contour, I'm using the Wet n Wild Mega Glow Contour, and this is in the shade Where's Walnut. I love this. I'm actually quite new to contour, and I don't know why I wasn't doing it before. Especially because my BB cream's a little light for me right now. This adds some color to my face. But anyway, moving on. Some hobbies of mine, things that I enjoy doing. I love to travel. And I have, obviously, if you know me and my love story, you're going to know where this is going. But I have traveled my whole life with my family, and I'm so grateful for that because it taught me so much about people and cultures and myself. It taught me so much, and I will never take that for granted. I'm very blessed to say that I had a family who recognized the importance of traveling as well. So, oh, I forgot my concealer. I'm just going to say it's the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Eraser concealer. But anyway, yeah, so from a young age I traveled. I've been to a lot of different US states. I've been pretty much all around the East Coast. I've been on the West Coast, and we're making our way to the middle of the country just to see more. But yeah, my first time out of the country was probably to Canada because we have family in Canada. So that's probably the first time I went out of the country. But other than that, when I was a kid, I was 7 or 8 years old, and we took a big family trip to Aruba, which was amazing. I don't remember too much of it, but what I do remember was pretty awesome. But yeah, so I went to Aruba with my family at 7 or 8 years old, and then my next trip out of the country was probably one of my favorite trips I've ever been on. So when I was 15 years old, we were surprised, my family surprised us with a trip to Italy. And oh my goodness, it was my first time in Europe, and I will never forget it. We landed in Rome, and we took like a train to Venice. Venice was our first stop. And when I tell you, we got off the train and walked into paradise, it was like a different world. I will never forget what that looked like and felt like for me at 15 years old. It was amazing. We went all around Italy. We went to the Amalfi Coast. We went to Florence, Rome, Venice, Pisa. We saw the ruins of Pompeii. We saw everything, and I will never take it for granted. I will never take traveling for granted. I think everyone needs to travel at some point in their lives. And if you can't leave your own country or state, then you can still do a lot of exploring in your own area, and you can also read books and do research, watch videos. There's so much you can do to learn about other people and other cultures. So I just think you need to do it in your lifetime. You need to save any way you can. Like, it is worth it. You learn so much about yourself and other people, and it's beautiful. It's a big world out there. There's so much to see and to learn. So why on earth would you stay in your hometown your whole life? Unless you want to, but I think there are so many ways to explore, even if you don't have the money. For my powder, I'm using the, oh, I just got powder like all over me. Pink Lips Loose Setting Powder. I don't know, I think this was my sister's and she didn't want it, so I took it. But basically, so other hobbies of mine, I love to work out, which you probably wouldn't have expected if you don't know me, because most people don't enjoy working out, but I actually really do. I started my fitness journey when I was 16 years old because my dad he started going back to the gym. I think he had a bit of a shoulder injury, so he didn't go to the gym for a few years, but then in 2016 he decided to start going again, and I wanted to go with him. And so he took me and he taught me how to lift weights, and I fell in love with it, you guys. Weightlifting became my life. I did it almost like every day, and I saw incredible changes, and I stuck with it. I was consistent, and I saw amazing changes in my body. I never looked better. So I fell in love with that. In 2020, I fell in love with doing yoga. Because of the pandemic, the gyms were closed, obviously, so I fell in love with doing yoga at home with my mom and my uncle. And then I slowly sort of got out of exercising in general for a couple years, and now this year I've gotten back into yoga. I've tried barre classes. In 2019, my uncle and I my uncle and I did hiking. We started to do more hikes and more walks in nature. And so I do enjoy moving my body and exercising. I think when you take some time off, though, it's rough getting back into it, but I've always been someone who I don't give up very easily. So I really like to stick to my goals until I've reached them, and then I like to progress from there. I took a free barre class when I was in the UK last, and I fell in love with it. So I'm gonna maybe try and continue taking barre classes as well. I'm gonna go in really lightly with a bit of bronzer. This is the Wet n Wild Color Icon Bronzer in the shade, oh, it doesn't say. I might be able to, oh yeah, it does. Sunset Striptease is the name of this one. All right, so moving on to a couple other hobbies of mine. I recently got back into reading, which if you've been watching my channel, you know this because I've been so obsessed with it. I was never a big reader. I always say this, but growing up in school, you're kind of forced to read whatever is part of the curriculum, and it's not always something that interests you. I did love The Great Gatsby, which that was always my thing, but I was never a big reader. And so when I was in high school, I was kind of like a librarian. I was able to take this class where I could be in the library. It was my senior year, and I just needed like a few more credits to graduate, and so I decided to apply for that, and I got in. So I was basically, you know, I was helping people check out with their books. I was organizing the library, putting books away, and also part of the class was you had to read. So I was never a big reader, but I discovered romance books. And looking back, some of the books I liked were quite cringe, but at the time they changed my life. I realized that reading could really be enjoyable, and so I fell in love with a few books that, again, I look back and I think they're cringe now, but at the time they were everything to me. And so I realized how much a story could change your life. And so once I graduated high school, I fell out of reading again. I was too busy with school, and I don't know, I could have gone to a public library, but I just didn't. And so I just didn't do much reading. And then this year in August, I fell in love with reading again. Basically, I just knew I wanted to get back into it. And what got me into it was, and I know this is maybe somewhat controversial for some people, not everyone's a fan of her work, and that's okay, but It Ends With Us, Colleen Hoover, the movie was coming out in August, and I wanted to read the book before I watched the movie, and I did, and I really enjoyed the book, and the movie was kind of meh to me, but it got me back into reading, and I'm really thankful for that. So I have been reading romance novels, only romance basically, but I do like the idea of murder mysteries and thrillers. I like autobiographies. I kind of like everything, but mostly romance is what I've been reading. And so basically, I have been obsessed with Abby Jimenez. She is the best romance author, you guys. If you have not read her books, I'm gonna rave about her forever. If you've seen like any of my recent videos, you'd know that I'm obsessed with her. And I got to read her new book that's coming out in April. I got to read that early because I not won a competition, but it was like this. I joined her Facebook group and I applied to read it early, and I got it. So I was so excited about that. But yeah, reading has become just an amazing thing for me. I'm in a bit of like a rut or a slump right now with it, but I really want to get back into it. I have a few other books I need to read, but yeah, romance is kind of what I love most. I also love content creation, hence why I'm on YouTube, hence why I'm on Instagram. I have a passion for photography, content creation, videos. My husband is a photographer as well, so it's something we connected over originally and something we enjoy doing together. If you follow me on The Elegant Edit, you know that he takes most of my photos. It's mostly the ones of me. So yeah, definitely give me a follow there if you're interested. But that leads me to, as well, my passion for fashion and beauty. So I have always been, like I said, a beauty and fashion lover since I was a kid. I loved, like I said, dressing up, doing my makeup as a kid, and that has stuck with me. I learned from all like the beauty gurus back in the day on YouTube, so I learned how to do my makeup well, and especially today, like I'm so happy with my go-to routine. I feel very confident doing it, so yeah. But basically, I've always had a love for that, and through social media, I've wanted to share that love. I'm also a lover of writing, so back in 2019, I think, or yeah, maybe 2019, I started a blog, which I no longer have just because I wanted to kind of start over and maybe do a new one. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to, but I haven't been writing lately, and I really want to get back into it. On that blog, I shared everything in relation to fashion, beauty, fitness, travel, and just life lessons that I was learning as a 19, 20, 21-year-old. So I kind of miss my blog. I do need something to write about, like not something to write about, I need somewhere to write, whether it's personal or public, I'm not sure yet, but I do want to get back into writing. And yeah, so I shared a lot of fashion and beauty on my blog, and I loved it. And it's something I've continued to do, but now on YouTube. So yeah, I've always had a passion for it. I feel like I would describe my personal style as elegant, classy, feminine, and timeless. So if you follow me on Instagram, you already know this. But yeah, so that's how I would describe my personal style. And I just used my highlighter again on my face. It was the Moondance one by Ofra. But anyway, so yeah, I met my husband. This is a really long story, so I'm gonna try and keep this super short because I feel like the video is gonna be already very long. But if you want to see a separate video about my love story, I'd be so happy to share it, and Tom can join me for that, so let me know. But basically, in 2020, well, back in 2018, I got a follow on Instagram from my husband. And I saw he was a photographer and he lived in the UK, and I didn't think anything of it. I loved his photos. He didn't have like any photos of himself, but I wasn't looking to date. I just kind of was like, I'll follow him back. He has nice photos, whatever. So I followed him back and nothing came of it. We followed each other for a couple years. And then in 2020, I actually did a study abroad to France when it was my junior year of college. and I did a study abroad trip. It was only a week long, but it changed my life because it showed me that I could travel on my own. I wasn't with anyone I knew. All the girls on that trip, I didn't know them. So it felt like a huge step toward independence for me, and I truly believe in taking risks and getting out of your comfort zone in order to grow, and that's one way that I did that. So I really believe my trip to France led me to my husband, because on Instagram he saw those photos from my trip and he commented on one and he DM'd me. I posted like an outfit photo. I was in like kind of a beret, and it was a couple things I bought while I was in France. It was like a trench coat and this skirt from Zara. I know the outfit because I still have a few of those pieces. And so he DM'd me and said, "This look suits you so much." And at first I didn't think much of it. Like, my husband was so and is so genuine that it didn't come across as like flirting or being creepy. I just, like, you know, because sometimes as women, you know, it's possible to get creepy messages from men, but actually it seemed so genuine, and I was just like, wow, like, that was really nice of him. And eventually he followed me on his personal Instagram as well, so I could see photos of him. Not that there were many, but I saw some photos of what he looked like as well. And from that point on, we began messaging almost every single day. It turned into every day eventually, and I very, very quickly fell in love with him. But he lived in the UK and I lived in the US, and so I thought, how is this going to work? At the time, I was still in school and wasn't working. And so I was like, I don't have any money to travel. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So we met, you know, online during the pandemic, and during the pandemic, I think is when I got my first job. It was 2021, actually, just before I traveled to see him for the first time. So everything worked out in such perfect timing that, honestly, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that we are so blessed and so great, like so lucky. But yeah, so we got to meet in person a year later. So we would FaceTime every day, message each other every day. And then we met. I actually had to travel to him because the US, we still had our borders closed, I think, and the UK was open. So I traveled all the way to the UK for the second time in my life, and I met Tom at London Heathrow Airport. His parents were there and they all picked me up, and we spent a beautiful month together in person, and it was just the best time of my life. Our love story is quite unique, not only in the sense that it was long distance, and in some ways it still is, but it's also because we met during a global pandemic. Like, what an awful time you would think to meet someone. But we got to know each other over the phone, and then we met in person, and it was beautiful. That same year, he proposed to me. We already talked about getting married as well. We talked about looking at rings together. And so, yeah, we traveled back and forth for a few years, but we got engaged November. So we met in person July of 2021, got engaged November of 2021, got married July 2022, and we've just been traveling back and forth for the past few years, but we're hoping to settle down. I know some people don't like the term settle down, but I don't mean it like we're going to be serious now. I just mean we want to have our own space. We want to have our own place, which, let me tell you, I'm not going to go into detail right now, but the visa process is something else. The immigration process is something else. So I'm not going to share too much on that yet because I'll have news about that next year, hopefully. But anyway, yeah, so that's that. Anyway, to finish off this makeup look, I am going to be using the Revlon Super Lustrous lipstick, and this is the cream version. They have like a different version, but this is the cream version in Whiskey Business. By the way, like, my favorite new lipstick shade. It's more of a brown nude color, and I'm obsessed with it. I'm such a pink girl that I never really wear brown nude shades. I always wear pink nude, but this is so perfect for this time of year especially, so I couldn't recommend it more. You will see when I put it on. A few last things. Some of my favorite, like, genres of movies and TV shows, that kind of thing. I obviously love romance. I love, I used to like scary movies, but as I've gotten older, I'm like, I don't know what they really bring to my life. I don't mind a thriller. But yeah, I like mysteries, romance, rom-coms, comedies, especially comedies. Yeah, and with this time of year, Christmas, all the Christmas movies, you guys, I am so excited. I love the holidays. Christmas is my favorite holiday. So my favorite holiday movie is The Holiday. I love that movie. After Thanksgiving, I always wait till after Thanksgiving to watch Christmas movies, and The Holiday is the one I watch first. and it's just my favorite. Like, I am Amanda Woods. Not really, but I married a British guy, so that's why. But anyway, those are my favorite kind of movies. I'm trying to think of my favorite movies. The Great Gatsby with Leonardo DiCaprio. Titanic, also with Leonardo DiCaprio. The Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan. I grew up watching Lindsay Lohan and everything, so yeah, pretty much anything with her in it I loved, like Freaky Friday, but The Parent Trap is like my favorite movie ever. What else do I love? I love Bride Wars. I love anything with Anne Hathaway. I feel like I'm gonna stop the video and be like, dang, I should have mentioned that. But yeah, those are some of my favorite movies. A lot of rom-coms, like 13 Going on 30. Oh my goodness, it's like my favorite rom-com ever. I'm also a huge Disney lover. Anything Disney, I'm a big fan of. Yeah, so those are some movies. When it comes to TV, I'm not a big movie or TV person, to be honest. I'm very into my comfort movies and shows, so I don't always try new things with that. But yeah, one of my all-time favorite shows is Jane the Virgin. It's not on anymore, but it's like one of my favorite shows ever. Such a good show. I used to love Glee growing up. I liked the Fosters. Yeah, I was never a huge TV movie type of person, to be honest, but yeah, I like to stick to what I'm comfortable with and familiar with, but those are some favorites of mine. And I think the last fact for now that I want to share as I'm done with my makeup, by the way, I used Vaseline on my eyebrows because I don't use eyebrow gel because I feel like my eyebrow hairs fall out when I use eyebrow gel. So I used Vaseline because I've heard that's a good like alternative. But anyway, the last kind of fact I want to share about myself as I fix my hair is that I am someone who is always looking to grow. I'm always looking to challenge myself, and what kind of started that for me was when I was in middle school. When I first moved to North Carolina, we learned about Columbine and that whole terrible, horrific situation, and through it came Rachel's Challenge. And I remember when I was in like 8th grade, my school, we were taught about that tragedy, the Columbine tragedy, and about Rachel's Challenge. And so my school started a club. It didn't last long, unfortunately. I'm not sure what happened. It kind of just dissolved. But it was basically just about being good to other people. Basically, Rachel was such an inspiration for a lot of people who knew her in her life before she tragically passed. And it really inspired me. Her story inspired me. And I just, in that moment, something clicked in me and I knew I wanted to better myself. I don't think I was ever a horrible person, but I just felt like I could change, I could be better. And I always wanted that. So to this day, that is something I strive for. I strive to be better than I was yesterday. I always look for opportunities to grow. I try to do things that scare me. And one of those big things was going to France. It was getting out of my shell in college. It was traveling to meet the love of my life for the first time. So taking risks and growing. I believe that everyone needs therapy. I believe that everyone has opportunities to grow. I don't think anyone's perfect. Maybe you grew up, you know, in a very good home with good people around you, but there are still things to work on. There are still things to grow into. And right now in my life, I'm trying to find ways to balance being grateful for where I am and enjoying where I am, but also continuing to grow. So that's just something that I'm extremely passionate about, and I never want to be the same as I was yesterday. But I do need to remember to appreciate where I am, and you know, I may not be perfect, but to appreciate where I am, be grateful for how far I've come and for the woman that I am today. So I think that has to be the end of this video. I've rambled on long enough, but I hope you enjoyed. This is the final makeup look. It's nothing fancy. This is just like my everyday look. I used different blush, different lip colors, and different eyeshadows depending on my outfit that day. But this is the look I went for today. It's just kind of a go-to for me, and I like to keep my makeup mostly natural. I try not to go overboard with heavy makeup, but that's the look. I will link the products below. Maybe a couple things I talked about. If I can link it below, I will. But I hope you enjoyed the video and that you got to know me a bit more. Let me know if we have anything in common below. Let me know if there's anything else you want to know about me. Maybe I could do a part 2, but I'm trying to think what else can I share about myself. I don't know. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.